Hi, my name is Stefan Polilik. We organized this protest today against the rhetoric of Tucker Carlson, who's been spreading false information and Russian propaganda, which is killing innocent civilians in Ukraine. We're a part of a lot of different Ukrainian organizations, most notably Ukrainian Congress Committee of America and the UAFF. And we're just gathered here today to make our voices clear about how unacceptable this is that Tucker Carlson is spreading these lies.
So we're gathered here today in front of Fox News headquarters here in New York to protest Tucker Carlson and his show and the lies and the words that he expresses on television vis-a-vis Putin and the war in Ukraine. We as Ukrainian Americans are angered by the comments that he makes and the support that he gives Putin, and he's serving as a propaganda tool and a Putin mouthpiece in Russia, and we can't tolerate that as free people and as people who have been watching this genocide unfold. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech, but this crosses the line when it becomes a national security risk. And Tucker Carlson right now, in our opinion, is a security risk to all the peaceful nations in the world. And he needs to stop his rhetoric.
We're here to be united with Ukraine. We're here to demonstrate to the world that information now is weaponized. And unfortunately, people like useful idiots like Tucker Carlson are weaponizing information and causing it to be used against Ukrainians and causing genocide of Ukrainians. And we're here to stop that from happening. We're here to change the way media gives information to the world, because media is important in protecting people's understanding of what's going on with Ukraine. Dear Americans, we live in times when information becomes weaponized, and people like Putin's useful idiots, like Carlson Tucker, who are wielding such lethal weapons, should be held accountable in the genocide of Ukrainian nation by the Russians. Hopefully there will be a Nuremberg for them too.
Ukraine should be free, should not be taken over by the Russian. It's not a Russian territory. Get out of Ukraine. Thank you.
A Kremlin mouthpiece for many years now. There's evidence of him back in 2019 saying, why shouldn't he side with Putin? And this is unacceptable, as you all see what's happening in Ukraine right now. Children are being killed, innocent civilians are being killed, and a lot of that is due to what the Kremlin has been saying and what their propaganda has been saying to their own people. And as you see in Russia, they have a 70 to 80% approval of the war. It's unacceptable. Tucker is spreading Russian propaganda, and he has to resign. He has to stop. So I think we can start with the chant, Tucker resign, and then we'll move on to another one if you guys want. Tucker!
Resign!
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 Tucker lying, children dying.
Tucker lying, children dying. Tucker lying, children dying. Tucker lying, children dying. Tucker lying, children dying.
Children dying! Children dying!
Tucker lying,
Children dying! Children dying!
Tucker!
Resign!
Tucker!
Resign!
Tucker!
Resign!
Tucker!
Resign!
Tucker!
Resign!
Tucker!
Resign!
Tucker, go to hell! Tucker, go to hell!
Good afternoon, New York City. I would never have thought that I would be standing here today in front of Fox News Studio, a so-called place of accurate news and truth, to protest the fact that Fox News employs a Putin apologist and propaganda tool by the name of Tucker Carlson. Carlson is a popular political news commentator. We get that. But as members of the Ukrainian American community, what we don't get is the fact that Fox News thinks it's okay to be harboring a mouthpiece for a regime whose dictator has been labeled a war criminal.
War criminal!
By supporting Tucker Carlson, Fox News has now become one of the main propaganda tools of the Russian regime. A regime that does not promote free speech, a free press, and in fact murders people for having free thought. Isn't that ironic? As a political commentator and talk show host, Tucker Carlson has an obligation to do his research and to tell the truth. And we know that you can spin the truth to satisfy a political agenda, but when it puts people's lives at risk and places your country in jeopardy, we have to draw the line. This no longer becomes an issue of free speech, but a matter of national security. Playing party politics at the expense of thousands of innocent victims has to be condemned. At this moment, Tucker Carlson has an even bigger responsibility to tell the truth without distorting the facts to fit his agenda. The money that he makes on distorting facts is tainted with the blood of many Ukrainians, and one day could be tainted with the blood of American soldiers when this conflict escalates beyond Ukraine's borders. I hope Tucker Carlson can live with that. Tucker lying, children dying. Tucker lying, children dying.
Tucker lying, children dying. Tucker lying, children dying. Tucker lying, children dying.
Tucker Carlson is not a real journalist and should not be working for any news agency who deems itself to be well trusted. Shame on Fox News. Comrade Carlson has to go. Comrade Carlson has to go. Comrade Carlson has to go. Comrade Carlson has to go.
Comrade Carlson has to go. Comrade Carlson has to go.
Some may ask, well, doesn't Tucker Carlson get to say what he wants since he has the freedom to do so? Free speech is at the heart of what we value most in the United States. As an on-screen personality, however, Tucker has a greater weight to bear than most and must be mindful of how his words can be used in the hands of those out to destroy us. For example, Ukraine not being a sovereign country when there had been an increase of violence in Ukraine-controlled parts of Greece was used by Putin to lay a foundation for the full-on invasion of Ukraine and was aired all over Russia, emboldening those wanting to instill a hatred of the U.S. in the Russian population. Carlson recently denounced U.S. sanctions against Putin's Russian oligarchs as unfair property seizures and echoed Russian disinformation that the United States had bioweapons labs in Ukraine. All lies. And again, one must question Carlson on the purpose of those remarks if they are not to support Putin's agenda in Ukraine and embolden Putin to move beyond the borders of Ukraine and into NATO countries. We have a responsibility as American citizens, as people who love this country, to say this needs to stop. Tucker Carlson needs to stop the propaganda. He needs to stop being Putin's mouthpiece. Tucker Carlson needs to go. 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 Our country when your words and your actions are used by Russia to spew their propaganda, which kills innocent civilians in Ukraine and promotes violence against the U.S. and all peaceful countries around the world. Shame on you, Tucker Carlson! 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 As Ukrainian Americans, we are angry at the fact that Tucker Carlson uses his platform, the Fox stage, to promote Putin's agenda, and that is the genocide of the Ukrainian people and his clear intention to provoke a world war. Tucker Carlson has one choice: to stand with good or with evil. There are no gray areas here. And Fox News has to decide what is more important to them: money and party politics, or the sanctity of human life and peace. Shame on you, Fox News!
Shame on you, Fox News! Shame on you, Fox News! Shame on you, Fox News! Shame on you, Fox News! Shame on you, Fox News! Shame on you, Fox News! Tucker lying, children dying. 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 Tucker, you're a liar. 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 Tucker, do your homework.
Hasta la vista, Mother Tucker!
Hasta la vista, Mother Tucker. 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 Putin speaks. Tucker repeats. Tucker repeats. Putin speaks. Tucker repeats. Tucker repeats. Tucker repeats.
Putin goes to Russia. Putin goes to Russia. Putin goes to Russia.
We have a letter that we're going to deliver to Lachlan Murdoch, who's the head of who's Tucker Carlson's boss, and it states the following. On the topic of Tucker Carlson as a threat to national security, as viewers and American citizens, we are extremely concerned with Russia's destructive invasion of a peaceful nation and Tucker Carlson's role in spreading Russian propaganda in the United States. Ukrainians are bravely defending their homeland, freedom in Europe, and peace globally, with bipartisan political, military, and economic support from the U.S. government and the American people. In doing so, the United States is fulfilling the promise of security made to Ukraine under the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, fighting for shared values of democracy and freedom. Simultaneously, Tucker Carlson is undermining the international response by denouncing U.S. sanctions against Putin's Russian oligarchs as unfair property seizures and echoing Russian disinformation that the United States has bioweapons in Ukraine. He has called Ukraine a tyranny, despite the fact that the democratically elected Zelensky has the continued support of the vast majority of his population and the global community. We demand these statements to be immediately renounced and removed from Fox websites. As a person, you must be furious at the senseless violence against peaceful civilians. As the CEO and chairman of a media company, you must share our concern over the Kremlin's censorship of Russian media and outrage that Russian soldiers have killed longtime Fox News cameraman Pierre Zakrzewski and 24-year-old Alexandra Kuvshinova, a local journalist and consultant to the Fox News crew in Ukraine. You must then be equally outraged that those individuals directing the murder of American journalists and oppressing free speech in Russia are also approving and airing Mr. Carlson's inaccurate segments across Russian state propaganda channels. In case Tucker Carlson requires a reminder, the Russian state is not our friend. The kleptocratic dictatorship that Putin leads is a violent threat to his own people. Ukraine and democracies around the world. Why then has Mr. Carlson become the American mouthpiece for the Kremlin? Members of the Ukrainian community would invite an opportunity to discuss this incredibly important issue in person. In the meantime, to continue to spew Russian propaganda to a viewer base of over 4 million Americans is not only an issue of national security, but profoundly un-American. And we urge you to immediately remove him from the Fox platform. Sincerely, United Ukrainian American Organizations of New York.
Putin speaks, Tucker repeats. 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 Children die, children die. Children die, children die. Tucker lied, children die. Tucker lied, children die. Tucker lied, children die. Tucker lied, children die. Children die. Children die.
Kick Tucker out!
Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out! Kick Tucker out!
Kick Tucker out!
Kick Tucker out! Good afternoon, New York. I would never have thought that I would be standing here today in front of Fox News Studio, a so-called place of accurate news and truth.
war criminal. By supporting Tucker Carlson, Fox News has now become one of the main propaganda tools of the Russian regime. A regime that does not promote free speech, a free press, and in fact, murders people for having free thought. Isn't that ironic? Comrade Carlson has to go. Comrade Carlson.
Tucker, resign! Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox!
Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox! Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox! Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox! Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox! Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox! Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox! Shame on Tucker! Shame on Fox! Shame on Fox!
Tucker lying, children dying!
Tucker lying, children dying!
Tucker lying, children dying!
Tucker lying, children dying!
Children dying!
Tucker lying,
Children dying!
Tucker lying,
Children dying!
children dying! Tucker goes to hell!
Tucker repeats! Speak! Tucker repeats! Speak! Tucker repeats! Speak! Tucker